Alright, just a quick update. I have fixed uh, or created a better random function for myself, which is nice. And I'm starting to work on this animation stuff that will allow me to put objects, link it to this hyperlink texture. It's very interesting how it's going to work, because I can only link one object to one cube at a time. And basically, objects are going to be made out of spheres. This is the best way to ray trace. And there's still a lot of questions left, like when I enter an object, what do I do with the ray? How is it going to work? Because like it's possible to enter the object, but like when I do enter the object, I have to cast the ray separately. It could be a mess. I have no idea. But it doesn't seem impossible, right? The animation part. And again, I want to make sure that I can rotate the object. I can scale it up and down. So the best way to do it is just put it in some kind of sphere, depending on what the size of the object is. And every object is obviously going to be made out of little cubes as well, because that makes things a lot easier. And the hyperlink is going to work as follows. You have an object inside of some kind of cube. The cubes are going to be a lot larger than the ones that I show you in the engine. All right, they're going to be a lot larger. But an object is going to be contained within a cube, or multiple cubes if it's a large object. And I'm simply going to ray trace through the cube. The cube is going to detect that I'm trying to ray trace through the cube that contains an object. Then it's going to try to figure out whether I have to hit the object. And then I'm ray tracing through the object and checking which pixels to pick. And then what happens when you have multiple objects in one cube? I think it's going to be solved fairly simply, just like I did the point system in the first few episodes. The point system made sure that if you have multiple points in one cube, you only have one point that is linked to the cube, but that point is also linking to the whole system of basically a community of points, but you go from one point and just read the whole array of points there. So this is how I'm going to do it. And this allows me to have, infinite amount of objects pretty much, I think. And infinite of them in one place. So that'll be useful. Again, I don't want to make animation just like, switching cubes from one place to another, because I want to have UI. The UI is going to be a lot smaller than the cubes here. So, and there's just a lot more functionality that I can squeeze out of that, out of having objects separately. So yeah, that's very important. And who knows what the first object, what should we make the first object be? Because that's quite a big deal for an engine like this, isn't it? Well, I'll think of that later. The other thing that I figure out is that I actually can have multiple chunks, so to speak, rendering chunks. One chunk contains, as I've said, 16 million blocks, and I can update it in one frame. Obviously, it's not going to be easy to save and load. However, if it's made out of simple information, I can easily load and save. If it's made out of like huge cubes or something, or if you don't want to save much information, if the game just saves just very, very specific data. I don't know. Actually, it makes no sense then. Because most games have terrain and have all these complicated things. So saving and loading is gonna be a drag. But again, it's really nice to have a limit removed, and it seems like rendering distance is also kind of limitless. The only problem again is only how do you read from these textures. That's the big issue, because it calls the CPU to read the memory and all this stuff. It's pretty taxing. So until that issue is somehow resolved, even though I will not research too much, there's not much I can do in terms of increasing resolution or increasing rendering distance. But it seems like I can at least increase the amount of stuff that I can actually see in terms of information. So that's great. It's gonna be very ugly to work with multiple chunks, but I'll have to figure something out, how to stitch them together, It's quite messy. Anyways, that's kind of the update. Let's continue work. Oh boy. This is looking goddamn great. And figure out what that first object will look like. Damn, I'm excited.